Thank you for watching the shortest.
Totally the wrong one. Hold on, I'm gonna. All right, and that's why I'm not allowed to touch the buttons. Yes, everybody, it is Tuesday night, and they let me touch the buttons, which means I just rolled the end credits to begin this. My name is Buddy Scalera, and yes, if it's Tuesday, it means it's time for Comic Book School Live, and today is Tuesday, December 14th. If you're a first-time creator hoping to get your first exposure to comics publishing, a rising talent, building your audience, or an old grizzled pro like me, we welcome you to Comic Book School, where we talk about the craft and business of making comics. Tonight, if the link works, we will be welcoming the massively talented comic book artist, Chen, who's been an artist for Marvel, DC, Valiant, and many, many more. Hugely popular, and will be talking with us tonight about Instagram. We have a special report from our very talented editor, Robin Ramos. Nope, I got that wrong. I'm reading this and I can't get it right. We will have a special report from our very talented educator, Robin Ramos, who will be talking about cover design and logo design, and a clip from our very own A.A. Rubin talking to YA graphic novel creator, Victoria Grace Elliott, the author of Yummy, A History of Desserts. And I don't even know if I can give a warm comic book school welcome to anybody, but I'll tell you what, it has been a great couple of weeks, and I just want to point out that we are increasing our followers on the YouTube channel, and we are doing a couple of cool things. I just want to pull this up really quick because I'd like to get your participation in it. We are collecting a list of all the different great Christmas gift ideas that we want to include if somebody is shopping for a comic book creator, or you want to tell somebody what you want for the holiday season. I am going to try to share my screen, watch and laugh as I do this incorrectly. I look around, I can't find it. I got to look all over here. Where is it? Don't you wish I'd planned this better? All right. Okay. So if you go to the Comic Book School forums, that's at create.comicbookschool.com, and you go into the main forum, we are creating an awesome list of holiday shopping ideas for comic creators. And what you can see here are people giving amazing recommendations. Oh, look, there's my book. All different types of ideas, from software to art supplies. And I'm going to be including this in an upcoming issue of the Comic Book School newsletter. I'm going to just collect a bunch of them. But if you want to see the complete list, or you want to contribute to the list, go to the Comic Book School website. There's a section here for in the main forum where we need help holiday shopping for comic creators. So definitely check that out, because we want your input on what the best holiday gifts are for comic book creators. While we're also checking out the Comic Book School website, and please check it out as quickly as you can, I'd also like to note that if you go there, you will be able to see this, which is sharing a screen, a Chrome tab. Boom. You have to understand it's hiding behind my microphone. So if you don't already go to the Comic Book School website, obviously, this is the logo for tonight's show. This is a link. Our very own producer and editor, Rob AnderSin, who is the Indie Advocate, spoke with legendary independent publisher Ben Dunn, the founder of Antarctic Press. That was last week. We did our Thanksgiving show. We have our story outline. And if you have not yet seen it, we have quite a few photos from New York Comic Con, always adding more, but you can see a couple of sets within these to see what we did at Comic Con. And of course, the second anthology, the Panel 2 Time In anthology. And I was actually not too long ago a guest on the Visual Lounge, and you can see what I talked about there. So there's a lot to see, even though none of my co-hosts or guests seem to have made it. We are here. So, Rob, are you able to join me on screen tonight? Are you dressed appropriately?
Yeah, I can talk to you while I set up the ability to do it. So go ahead.
All right. So, Rob is the indie advocate, and he also has a YouTube channel. And I see comments here. The co-host is locked out. What do you mean the co-host is locked out? That was from Mike Fasolo. Why is the co-host locked out? I'm on. Are we live? Guys, I think we're going to have to send everybody a copy of the StreamYard link because it just doesn't seem to be working. This is really, really live.
Yeah. Well, Buddy figures that out. Clearly, I wasn't ready to come on live tonight, but here I am. I expected it to be a lot of smarter people than me. Hide the kid. There's no kid behind there. He's the Wizard of Oz. You didn't see him. So what's going on, people? Happy holidays. A very exciting time for comic book school as we get to think about what's going to be happening next year. So, and I said this on a TikTok video, make sure you guys are giving each other gifts of like gift cards so people can buy comics. So don't just suggest comics, but give people like an Amazon card. And here comes Mike. So I get to be off air. Someone more talented than me. Mike.
I don't know about that.
What happened? What you couldn't get in?
You sent the wrong link. You sent the link from last week.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I really?
Was Ben done last week?
Ben Dunn was last week.
You sent the link from last week.
And we'll use the joke. That's been done. Oh, Sean Chen just arrived. So I'm not entirely sure what happened. Joining us now is my co-host, Mike Fasolo, world-renowned screenwriter from the highbrow television show Robot Chicken. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Why is your screen name Mike Fasolo on the Rocks?
I don't know. Fasolo on the Rocks. I thought that was a good name. Solo on the Rocks.
Fasolo on the Rocks. All right. Yeah. And I see Robin Ramos in the backstage. So I know we were able to bluff for enough time. Thank you all. I see that people didn't leave us completely.
Now that the link is sent out properly by anyone other than you.
Right. All right. So tonight, Mike, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of things. We've got Robin Ramos doing an educational segment. A.A. Rubin did a live clip for us. What do you say we welcome Robin Ramos to the screen? Robin, welcome to the show. Thank you for being patient as you waited for the real link to arrive.
Keep me on my toes, man. I figured I'd just get to my position here like I'm a stand-up comic and go.
I can see Sean Chen is in the audience. I'm not entirely sure why Sean can't get in the room, but I can see him here. We'll just show this. I'm in the StreamYard backstage. So, Sean, I just sent you a new link. Okay, there's Sean right now. All right, so we're gonna start. We're gonna
where we go.
Yeah, we're gonna start by introducing Sean Chen again, and I'll pull Robin off real quick so I can do this the right way. All right. So, Mike, we have a very special guest. He is an artist from Marvel Comics, DC Comics, but we got to know him when he was just breaking in with Valiant Comics, creating wonderful characters. And it's a little hard to tell if he's best known for his Iron Man, for his Wolverine, and for any other things. But right now, it seems like his fame is skyrocketing because of his unbelievable Instagram account. Do you want to know who this is?
I would love to know who it is.
This is Sean Chen, our friend Sean Chen. That was the worst introduction I think I've ever done, Sean.
I want to know who you were talking about, skyrocketing or whatever. So,
Sean, thank you for being patient. Apparently, I sent out the link from last week.
Oh, yeah, I was in the Twilight Zone for a while, but I'm here now. So.
Well, welcome. And Sean, I don't know if you've ever met Mike Fasolo. Did you ever meet Mike? Mike used to work with me at Wizard.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe in passing certain points.
At a convention.
A long time ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. I can see our viewership dropping now as I try to vamp for a little bit of time. Let's get into what we're here for. So tonight we'll be having Robin Ramos and we'll be having a clip. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the meteoric rise of Sean Chen's Instagram account. So we've always been on Sean Chen for not not rather an internet presence at all, like barely had a website, was never on Facebook. You're not on Facebook either, are you, Mike?
No.
No, and
No,
yeah,
neither
there
of
was
us.
there was no I didn't have any social media at all, so there was no website either. So
Yeah, so at one point, I think enough people nagged you to post something, and you posted. This is your, I think, would be your first post. It looks like January 24th, 2018. Would that be about right, Sean?
yeah, that's when I started. So I wanted to start like maybe 3 or 4 years before then, but I'm not very technically minded, so I had a lot of trouble getting started because I need to get a phone, I had to get the app, and I had to learn how to use it because I never did any social media before. So what I did, because I couldn't get going, was just to like bank a lot of images. So when I'm drawing, take some process shots and just build this huge library. So by the time I learned how to do all that Instagram stuff, and I downloaded the app and got a new phone that actually would host it, I had like over 100 images ready to go. So I think that was part of what it got it rolling really fast.
Well, here's the thing, and Mike, it's going to be a little hard to believe. So he started this. So just take a mental note. He started January 24th. So essentially the end of January in 2018 by no, that's a recent one. Oh, I didn't upload them. Okay, well, I'll just put them there. By May of 2018, he had 3,000 followers.
Nice.
By July, he had 6,000 followers. August, 1 month later, jumped to 7,000 followers. Right? Yeah. Then to 10,000 followers in the same year by October. Then within the same month, he went from 9,000 to 10,000. Why is this jumping around like this? I cannot figure it out. Nothing is going right tonight. Nothing is going right tonight.
Click the right button.
I can't click any buttons correctly tonight. Anyway, you get the idea. Within 6 months, Mike, no. What was that? October. Within 10 months.
10 months.
Sean was at 10,000 followers. Sean, did that blow your mind?
It did. I did kind of a projection based on like artists that are on the similar level to me in the industry. And I looked at them and I figured like I should probably top out around 5,000. But it kept going. So
wait, let's show right now, Sean, how many followers is that? 40,900 followers. We're hoping that
close to 50,000, close to 50,000, I guess. But so it's slowed down quite a bit, thank God.
Yeah, slowed down just a bit.
So, Sean, so you have almost 50,000 followers, which on Instagram is actually a pretty high amount.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all relative because I follow a lot of different artists, and some of them have up to like 100,000. But you know, I kind of took it very seriously in the beginning, so I wanted to kind of get caught up in social media, kind of take a crash course in it because I was not on it for so long. So I wanted to see what it was about. So I wanted to get like that competition going. I wanted to feel depressed when the numbers didn't go up. All that stuff. I wanted to feel it all. So I took it very seriously and was very competitive. And then watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to get the most number of followers. I mean, legally. And so I did everything right for like maybe 2 or 3 years, 2 years, and then now I'm just letting it coast. But so it was like a big grand experiment to see how far I can take it.
I wouldn't say you coast. You're pretty regular. You still post pretty frequently on this account.
Well, you know, I was shocked to hear in the beginning that in order to get the most number of followers, you have to post every day, which kind of shocked me because I was planning on doing once a week. But luckily I had a whole bunch of art banked, so I can post every day. And if you really wanted to go like in a meteoric rise, then you would do like twice a day, which I thought was kind of really annoying just to like clog someone's feed with more and more of your stuff. So I guess that was what really did it, was just to have the fact that there was like maybe a few years worth of banked stuff, so that the quality was high, and be able to put it out every year because I kind of saved it up for so long. And I'll tell you, like
I will tell you, you have a nice mix. Actually, Sometimes you show photos. I think this is a pretty timely Halloween photo. And then what was this here with a mouse in a jar? This was your.
Well, I'm really like a maker. I'm a creative guy, so I do a lot of things. So I try to keep my Instagram about my comic book stuff, and particularly Marvel and DC comic book stuff. But I do a lot of other stuff, and sometimes that other stuff creeps in there. So this it's a mousetrap that has Admiral Akbar on it. So it was just like something that I made. It's like a mousetrap, but it's a very like a functional sculpture. I kind of like the way it looks. It has like wood and metal and glass. And I don't have another Instagram, so I just put it on here. And that's probably something you talk about, is to niche down and kind of keep your feed consistent. And you know, if I really cared, in the past, I probably wouldn't show that, because it kind of muddies up the waters. You know, you kind of have to show one kind of thing. And that's one of the unfortunate things about Instagram. If you're a creative person, you really have to pigeonhole yourself and do like one thing.
Well, yeah, and I've noticed that you get quite a lot of likes on your mainstream stuff, especially if it's timely. This photo, it's only is a week old. It's already got 4,060 likes and 62 comments. What are people saying in the comments when they comment on your images, Sean?
Well, by and large, it's the same thing. You know, like they just put the fire emoji, or they just say it's really good. And I think one thing to really make your Instagram grow is to actually respond to every single person. So, if there was maybe 50 people that commented, I would actually respond to each one of them with more than just an emoji and try to customize the response to each person. So if you want to do well on Instagram, it's basically you got to give it a lot of time and care. Probably not something that's sustainable long term, because you really have to, put your head down and do your work. But while I was doing this grand experiment of seeing how far I can get the number to go, I was actually replying to every single comment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was combing through. Do you know what image I maybe you do. What image is your highest liked image?
I do. I looked it up earlier today. It's the strangest thing, because that was a post that I probably wasn't going to put up because it was so stupid.
This one?
Oh, no, it's actually there's one that's even stupider than that.
I would have liked that one.
I thought the bat fart was would have been it. There's one that's stupider than the bat fart.
Well, okay, there is one that's not too old, and it has Wolverine, a front and back view of his head, and it's just like a line drawing of the front and back of his head, and it just shows where he puts his hair when he puts his costume on. There's holes in his costume where his hair goes behind the black points, and that one has 20,000 likes.
What?
And it's probably the dumbest thing I ever posted, but
people
Instagram
are curious.
is kind of weird that way. Yeah, you really can't forecast what's going to do well. So that one, it continues to surprise me, and it makes me wonder about the audience and what they're into.
Well,
hair apparently.
So one more, and I think, and this is one question that you posted this today.
Yeah, a couple days ago, actually.
Yeah, 1,844. So now that I didn't realize you were so methodical about it, but I knew you were smart. He went to Carnegie Mellon, Mike.
I did not know that.
He's very smart. Do you have a sense of how the curve works in your likes and your comments? Is it sort of like it peaks at a certain time of the day and then it has a long drop off? How does that work?
Well, I think everyone has access to their insights, and if you don't, then if you have a business account. So I have a business account where you can switch it over to personal business, and that gives you these analytics, and it tells you has all this data that you can use, and it shows you when people are most looking at your feed. So I try to time it so that I post something maybe half an hour before the peak, and that way when they pick up their phone and start scrolling through, they'll always see my thing. And it's kind of odd for me because I think a lot of my viewers are Spanish speaking. So they're from Brazil, Chile or Mexico. So, and then the rest of them are in New York. So that's the biggest number. So they're all in different time zones, but it tells me that around 11:30 to 12 p.m. Every day. That's when I have the most people looking.
Wow, you were really methodical about this. I didn't realize. I thought you were doing it more for fun. I didn't realize that you were, you really went at it as a pro.
Well, these days it's for fun. Before, like I said, it was a grand experiment because I kind of miss social media altogether. And it's so much a part of, if you want to be a writer, you have to know what social media is all about. So I had to take a crash course in it. And like I said, I want to get really depressed when the number doesn't go up. And I want to compete with, like, if there's an artist that I think is worse than me but does better, I want to get really angry. And I wanted to feel, like social media will do that to you. That's it. They're famous for really messing with your heads, especially if you're a young teenager. So I wanted to feel all of that just to see what it's about. And now that I felt all that, I'm gonna just post for fun and post once a week maybe. So.
Well, and did you ever throw any money behind it for advertising or anything of that nature?
I never did. I don't know how to. I mean, it does have a button where it says like boost this post or make it a sponsored post. I never did that. Just because I don't really know how that works. So I never hit that button.
Even angrier.
So you saved money because you didn't know how that worked. That was actually worked out. All right, so let's get to the philosophical part. So. You were noting something that was very interesting when you were opening up, and Mike and I were just talking over you, and we were just laughing at our own jokes. You said that you have to be really consistent with what you post. You've tried a lot of different things. What works for you? Well,
this is stuff that you can find out on YouTube on how to gain more followers. So they call this thing called niching down, where you kind of, I don't know if it's niche or niche, but you niche down and then you try to be very specific about, have a very narrow band of what you do. So I know some people who, they'll post only pictures of pretty women's faces, and that'll do well for you, but they find that they can get more if they focus on just how to draw hair or eyes of those pretty women. So the more you kind of niche down and you're known for this one very specific thing, the better you'll do. And I'm not sure, but I think maybe when someone sees your work or comes across your work on the Explore page, they're like, I really like this. I want to go see what this guy's whole feed looks like. If they go there, they want to see 100 of those things that they like. They don't want to see all sorts of things like mouse traps and Halloween costumes and stuff like that. They're not likely to follow you. So it's a weird thing about Instagram. I think the one negative thing about it is that if you're a creative guy, you really have to have just basically one thing that you do, and everything else you put in there kind of muddies it all up, and your followers start to drop. So
now, do you find that people want to buy that art from you once they've seen it on Instagram?
Yeah, that's the biggest benefit for Instagram is that you can get a lot of DMs about people who want to buy things. I never really say something's for sale, but they'll inquire, and then that's where a lot of the commissions come in. Like almost exclusively, all the commission requests either come in from there or at convention appearances. And since there's not many convention appearances these days, it's all been through Instagram. And that's the biggest benefit to me, that's how, especially if I don't have a regular monthly book, that's where a lot of the income comes from.
And did you have the sense that might happen when you started, or was this just a happy discovery?
I thought I would get some interest, but it seems like there's, I don't draw that fast. So if I get a request like once every 4 days, that's about all I can really handle work-wise. So that's what really comes in is, you put up a drawing and someone said is that for sale? And I said, no, can I commission something? And then it's on. Then you have you can fill your entire work week with just these commission requests, or, they're also cover requests. And then I think the good thing is that these days with Marvel and DC, a lot of the editors, like the senior ones, have moved on, or, they've been fired and they're replaced by their assistants. And a lot of times those assistants are basically they're 25-year-old girls, and they're all on Instagram. So, I get a lot of work from Marvel and DC through people looking through the gallery and saying well, this guy. So
editors are definitely checking out Instagram. Then you can confirm that.
Yeah, because especially if you follow them and if you know them, they post their lifestyle stuff, and then you post your work. And if they consider you for your job, they wonder well, can Sean draw? Green Arrow, and they can go through the feed and it's well, here's a Green Arrow and it looks pretty good. So then you can get hired that way,
That's
we know amazing. You can draw Batman farting.
Yeah.
Because there's a big call for that. I bet somebody bought that.
I'd like
bought
that one. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, those posts that are like that Batman farting and the Wolverine with his hair hidden behind the black points of his, like those are kind of like negative posts. They're kind of making fun of Marvel and DC, and I try to keep that to a minimum because, you know, drawing their characters is they're basically allowing us to draw their characters, right? So
yeah, that's where your paycheck comes from, right?
Right. So you don't want to do like, you know, like Frank Cho sometimes will draw like Rogue with her breast exposed. It's, you know, that's not the, you know, Marvel probably doesn't really want to see that, but you know, so I try to keep that to a minimum. But those two crazy posts seem to do really well for me. But I'll always try to keep it positive so that I want to represent Marvel and DC being
well. You always had a sly sense of humor, you know, and I see that in a lot of your Instagram posts. Like you always have this little catch you off guard because you know you're not the jokey guy like Mike Fasolo, the life of the party. You know that, but you know you have this little subtle sense of humor and
yeah. Well, that's another thing. Like one thing that can make you popular on Instagram is like having a really great art style and draw very well. But then aside from that, there's other things you can do because there's a comment section where you can actually write a message about the post. And since it's social media, you kind of have to get to know you. So a lot of people, especially through the comments and then my captions, they feel like they know me and they feel like they're not shy about commenting on a post, knowing that I'll have to comment back, and they're not afraid to take up my time knowing that I'm going to have to respond because they feel like we're friends. And, you know, a lot of them have become good friends of mine through Instagram. So so that's another thing is to really put yourself out there in the captions and make that engaging and try to educate and entertain a little bit and then show a pretty piece of artwork and then engage with them when they speak up. Then, you know, just find 100 ways to say thank you when they say they like your work, you know.
You have a couple questions coming in. Do you mind if the audience asks you a couple, Sean?
Sure.
All right. Philip, who is one of the artists in the comic book school community, asks if you ever get to the point where you were really anxious, upset, depressed from the social media activity.
Well, yeah. I knew going into it just from the chatter about social media that it can really make you feel depressed and it can make you feel isolated, or you know, it does affect your mood. And I went into it thinking that, oh, I want to do this because I want to know what it's about, because, you know, I have kids and I want to know what they're going through. I want to know what it's just a part of a social literacy to know what social media will do to you. So I dove in with both feet. And then I found an artist who was like a peer to me. And if that person got more likes on something that I thought was clearly bad, you know, I wanted to get revved up and I wanted to feel my blood boil and I wanted to compete. And that was fun in general. And then, you know, there was a point where the number of followers just started to level off. So then I'm thinking, well, this is it. I found my ceiling. You know, it's pretty hard to go up from here. You know, the work isn't going to get better overnight. It's just going to be more of the same. And that's, you know, that was kind of a bad feeling. Like, well, this is as far as it goes. And like, I just had to like be okay with that. And with that was like a little bit of a, you know, I felt depressed for a little bit. And I'm like, well, okay. But and then when you see someone who is, you know, not as good as you to go past you, I was like, whoa, that doesn't feel good either. So
well, he had a follow-up question. There's actually there you go. How do you disengage?
You know, I'm not sure what specifically that means, disengage, but the good thing about Instagram is it's a very positive environment. Unlike Twitter, which I think is thrives on being negative with hot takes, even if they don't admit it, it really does drive traffic to get really negative and to get really snarky. But in Instagram, it seems to thrive on positivity. So like if you like something, like it just seems like rarely does a negative comment come in. So I never really had to use the block button or anything, but usually, you know, I when someone says something that is kind of negative, I just, you know, thank them for their feedback, and then just move on. Just realize it with that many people, you're going to get some people that aren't into your stuff. So
that's true. And now, I have a very long one. I don't know how this will look when it comes up. It might cover the whole screen. There you go. So he does his own characters. By the way, this is Jared Elvin. He is an artist and also a designer here at Comic Book School. How much importance would you post on? Wait. How much importance would you put on posting unsolicited fan art? I'm not sure Oh, he does his own characters.
Right.
So the question is he does his own characters. How much importance would you say would be for him to put, I don't know, Wolverine up there?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's kind of important if you really want to get a lot of followers and a lot of likes. I can only go so far with the way that I draw, so I do piggyback a lot on the popularity of Marvel and DC, and then you can put that in the hashtags and then trending characters, and that'll propel you further. And I do try to, every once in a while, quite a bit actually, put in some other artwork in there, like my own personal. I put an entire 50-page comic that you can read on my Instagram from beginning to end, and those. They don't do as well as a picture of Wolverine, but the whole idea is like you build up the number of followers and then you show them something that you did. And then you just understand that it's not going to get as many likes because, the character is not, it hasn't been made popular by Marvel. So,
well, and then you have to answer the fan question. Where do Wolverine's claws go when they're not out? I mean,
everybody knows that.
Where do they go, Sean?
Well, I don't know. Isn't there some sort of like X-ray thing where it shows it goes into his forearm?
They're all on his forearm.
They're in their forearm. Is that right?
Yeah,
I didn't
they can't go past his elbow because then he wouldn't be able to bend it.
We're talking about the craft and business of making comics, everybody. And then I think there was I don't know if this is a serious question because he put haha after this, but do you block bots? Did bots come and DM on your?
Yeah, I don't really ever get them. I mean, I do notice sometimes that you can see how many people will follow and how many people will unfollow with a chart, and then I would notice sometimes I would lose like 1,000 followers like in a day, and I just assume that it's Instagram removing bots.
Oh.
So I mean, I don't really remove anyone, and I don't think I ever get any of those. Like they usually come into the DMs, and then so I just kind of ignore them, but never into the comments or anything.
That's very interesting. So, looking forward, Sean, what can people expect to see on your Instagram account? And also, we'll ask you the question that you were talking about earlier. Why do you think that Instagram is no longer valuing creator of original artwork?
Okay, so I answered that one. I think you can kind of look at what Instagram's mission is. It's their mission statement. I think lately they've kind of alluded to the fact that they kind of want to be like TikTok, and TikTok is not for me. I mean, I'm over 50 years old and I draw comics, and I think what they want to see is like 25-year-old girls who show up on the screen and dance and maybe show a little skin. And I think ideally that's their ideal customer. So the problem is if they let someone like me in. With every single post, they have access to my profile, which they know that, well, this guy is 50 years old. They know the age of the people who are engaging with my posts. And if they are mostly 35 to 45, then I think what they want to do is to keep this from becoming like Facebook, where your mom and dad are on Facebook and they can see all your posts. And then you look for where all the cool cats are hanging out and you go somewhere else. So, I think if I were younger, if I was female, if I took my drawings and danced with them, I think I would probably do a lot better. But I'm not going to do that. So
I think you should try that. That'd probably do very good for your followers.
That is very interesting about how the demographics for your work skews older and that they want a younger audience. That's very insightful. Yeah.
Also, I'm not sure if they favor females or males, but I know that 96 or 97% of or actually 94% of my followers are men. So I almost have no female followers. And I think that's typical for a comic book artist. But, with every single post, Instagram has access to that data too. And they decide, well, he's over 50, is mostly men to follow him. And then most of those men are 35 to 45. And a lot of them are Spanish speaking. I don't know what all that means, but that they kind of put all that together and they determine how many people they want to push it out to.
Wow.
So if they push out a piece of my artwork to like, I can get like 20,000 people to look at it, but they'll only show it to a certain number of people. And that's kind of their way of throttling how far and how successful you can be on the platform. And I understand it because it's, they have different needs. So they'll still welcome me and my content because I produce good stuff for free for people to watch. But they do have an ideal customer, I think.
And then what can we expect to see from you in the future? More experimentation, or, sort of, staying down the middle of what your audience likes?
I think it's going to maybe diversify a little bit more because I'm not that concerned with the number anymore because I think, I've never been able to really monetize the Instagram with outside of getting the commissions and the DMs. I do get a lot of invites to do a lot of like branded like those like sponsored things. I don't really know what those are, so I never really click on them. I just kind of turn them all down. So it's not like the high number is going to get me any money. And the only downside of keeping that number high is that the amount of time it takes to manage it and to keep it up there. It needs like a lot of TLC to keep that number high. So I'm going to let that go a little bit just so I have more time with work and family and whatever. And just let the number settle to where it settles. And that's completely fine because, the experiment of seeing how far it will go is I think when I hit 50,000, I think, well, that's a good place to just let it coast and let it go where it falls,
Yeah, well, hopefully we get you to 50,000 tonight, Sean. Maybe we'll contribute a little part. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Would you remain on the line? And because we're gonna put you backstage for a minute. Hold on. My cousins tell me Instagram is outdated, so I told them to go to Snapchat. Nice, good comeback. All right.
It sounds about right. Yeah.
I still have an avatar in Second Life. So Sean, we're going to be having a guest educator join us, and then I'll put you backstage. So don't go away. I'm
Okay.
adding Robin Ramos. Again, I'll introduce Robin. Mike and I met together. He was a designer at Wizard Entertainment while I was working there.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, how's it going, Robin?
Pretty good. I was trying to respond about monetizing social media and Instagram, and then, I'm basically talking to my furniture on this side of the screen. But you couldn't be more accurate when you're talking about how you skew your viewers, and for you to be able to monetize just your presence, you'd almost have to co-brand something that could drive monies in your direction, and that's not for you, nor really is it for me. Although you do have 49,002 followers, so I'm behind you by about 49,000.
Well, Sean, we're going to put you backstage. We're going to have you come back in the very end just for some final thoughts, but we're going to be handing the microphone over to Robin. We're even going to be taking Mike off. Mike, you're going to have to just go backstage. There are free cookies there.
I like
and,
cookies.
Help yourself to everything. Robin, tonight we're going to be starting part 1 of a 2-part educational series. You want to tee this up for what the educational moment is tonight?
Sure. We're going to be talking about logos and how you develop a logo for your character. Buddy and I were talking about, I don't want to get too far into the weeds about a myriad of topics about how you can develop your own character and how you bring your character to public. And obviously one of the key dynamics with that would be developing not just your character, that's on your side, but how do you market that character? How do you brand him? So we're going to be talking about branding and logos.
Sounds good. I'm going to pull up your slides real quick, Robin. So everybody who's watching as we're pulling this up should know that this is part 1 of 2, right, Robin?
That would be accurate. I mean, again, we can do this for an hour and a half, and we just don't have that luxury. But I did want to talk briefly about, how we go about creating a logo type for any specific character. And we can go ahead to the next slide. And a little background here is, years ago, my brother's a couple years older than I am, but we were still like huge Batman and Robin fans, and he was a huge fan of Space Ghost. And at one time, he developed or wanted to create his own character, and he called this character Mechton. So that's what I'm using that as a reference. So let's say I wanted to develop a logo type for this character called Mechton, and you should know that he had and I had no say in the matter because, there's no payment for what your imagination could bring you. But my brother decided, his character had all the power of Superman and then a little space ghost. Meanwhile, I was Robin, so that's all I could ever be. It kind of sucked as a kid. But needless to say, I'm going to break it down to just 3 different elements that we want to look for when you're developing a logo type. Now, remind you, that logo is going to appear on the masthead. It's going to be at the top of your book, and it's going to be on, all kinds of merch. So it's going to drive a lot of revenue for you, provided that your character really kind of sells. And we're going to be talking about, in weeks to come, all these different avenues to kind of get you to a place where your character is actually ready. You want to answer that question?
No. I don't have any brothers, younger or older, but I just thought I like this. Can you just explain what negative space is in case someone who's watching doesn't know what it means?
Exactly. So, well, we're going to talk about negative space, and in this particular example, we have negative space, simplicity, and symmetry. So negative space, if you go to the next slide down.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Now, here's a great example of negative space. Now, I think Batman is easily recognizable. The silhouette of Batman. The part that's not as recognizable, but that makes this thing so profound, is that the Penguin is the yellow image. So if you were to flip it over, you have the Penguin versus Batman. Now, in general, you can read it as follows. We'll produce a silhouette of the subject. Most often, negative space is used as a neutral contrasting background to draw attention to the main subject, Batman, which is then, referred to as the positive space. And that makes good use of negative space. So negative space works in the opposite. So it actually creates an outline or a shape, produce an image.
Yeah, what I like about the yellow is it's really bold, but it does draw your eye from the left to the right. You see it's Batman, but then you realize sort of in this circular pattern that there's another image hidden inside that trapped yellow space. It's a very clever piece of art, but I like how the negative space draws.
Yeah, and we could talk more about just that and an axis point. If you're talking about 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional space, you need a horizon line and an axis point. And again, not to get too lost in it, but there's so much here that we can talk about that may not occur to a guy that's just a great penciler, with the aspirations of becoming a comic book artist or an illustrator that draws characters.
All right, so we go into the next slide.
Yeah, and again, we're going to touch upon symmetry here. Now, if you don't know, symmetry really is just the reflective nature of anything. And if we split this on its axis right down the middle, it really reflects a shape. And that's what symmetry is. So it's basically the same object flipped.
So this is the symmetry right over here.
Exactly. And another key element here is color variation and shades that gives something dimension. So, just with and this is really just one color, and tones of that one specific color. So it's not dependent. This could easily be black and white with a bunch of gray values.
It really tricks your eye that this looks like it would complete here in that horizon line, right?
Yes. And again, what we're doing here is we're creating depth where it really doesn't exist, and that's what a good logo does. I mean, in particular, a good logo is one that you remember. It's just a mark. So by virtue of that mark, you already know what that product is, and that's the beauty of what we're looking for in a logo type.
All right. So next week, Robin, I think we're going to be. Oh, we have one more slide within the. Yeah,
I spoke about this previously about symmetry, and again, you have one specific. This is a vertical line that flips, and you have, it makes up a similar shape, creates the whole object.
That's an incredible. You made this?
I did not. I took these just for virtue of, but I can show you logos that I've created. I have several that were copyrighted for companies, but I'd rather not do that because I don't want to, it's not about me at all. But this is a very similar and very easy way for me to create logo types, is that I kind of defy the 2 dimensions and turn it into a 3rd dimension, which really kind of makes something sell.
So next week, we'll be talking about what makes logos work, getting into context, simplicity, and negative space.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this. And, having it be contextual really that's kind of like the magic at the end. It's like a secret toy surprise where, you're looking at a logo, and I'm going to try to create some more examples of logos that we know that exist, but we probably don't know that there's a little hidden secret in them. And there's a handful of those that I think would really kind of blow your mind, at least for people that kind of see them every day and aren't aware of that. But anytime you can create a logo type that's contextual, meaning that it really kind of tells a story about what that product is, that's just icing on the cake.
I like the icing. I like the cake. Robin, thank you so much for the woodshop educational moment. Mike, what do you think? Did you learn something? You did? We can't hear you. There you go.
I was waiting to see Batman and the Penguin and a bunch of those other images you had up there.
Those are good. I'll put Sean on real quick, and he can comment. Sean, you've spent a lot of time doing graphic design. Did you learn anything tonight? Anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
Well, I learned a lot. I mean, I do mostly illustrations, so this is a good graphic design is so immediate and so iconic. So I can kind of use that in some of my work. So.
Yeah, well, Sean, you have to realize that, graphic design and illustration at one point were the very same. Right. It wasn't until decades later that they started to kind of like have their own reality and separated, a chasm between the two. At one time, I spent hours and hours and hours just doing step and repeats using iconography for DC years ago, and to the point of exhaustion. But it's a good exercise in learning what works and what doesn't work. Like a lot of people would just take for granted. I did wallpaper for Batman and Robin, the movie with Mr. Freeze, and just to try to create licensed and merchandise for it, teaches you a lot about a simple exercise that you have to do 100 times over. It's kind of like the Karate Kid, although I'd rather be the Karate Kid.
You'd rather be the Karate Kid. Well, I want to have you guys wait backstage for me. We're going to show a real quick clip. Don't go away. Sean, keep helping yourself to the cookies. Mike, we'll put you back in the green room, and Robin, we'll see you again next week. Today, we're going to be running a clip that shows A.A. Rubin interviewed a comic book artist named Victoria Grace Elliott, the author of Yummy, A History of Desserts. And I'm going to show a quick clip of that.
You're publishing this with Random House, which is a traditional big five book publisher and New York publishing house, as opposed to a comics publisher. I feel like a lot of our audience may not think of selling a book to a publisher like that. Can you talk a little bit about that and about the process of how you were able to get that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was lucky in so many ways because I'd been doing webcomics before then. And I think a lot of folks in webcomics have sort of made the transition to specifically like YA and middle grade graphic novels. I think it was just the space that was the most open to us, but also a lot of people who are in those spaces, I think, have paid attention to what webcomic artists 5 to 10 years ago were doing. So Gina Gagliano, who started up RHG, actually reached out to me to pitch. And I know she reached out to a lot of people I know who had exhibited at conventions and things like that. So I did sort of have to tweak it actively. Like, I think a lot of us, we may have more naturally written something for an older audience coming from the webcomic sphere. But I think a lot of us have sort of adapted to like, okay, well, we need to sell this to middle grade. Like, it definitely does affect kind of what you're able to write, because it depends on what they're able to buy, right? And what they can tell the higher ups at Random House, like, okay, can we buy this, and that kind of thing. So we had to adapt sort of the genre and stuff like that.
So, Mike, that is a quick clip. They can find the rest of that clip on our Comic Book School channel. In fact, I will put this in the chat window so that everybody who's there can actually go and see that clip.
It's a good clip. I like the title, Yummy.
Yummy, yes, that's the name of her book. It's a history of desserts. It's actually a really good interview. It's about 15 minutes long, and they dive into how she was approached by an editor and how she had to scramble to get an agent. You have an agent, don't you?
I have a manager.
You have a manager? You don't have an agent?
I don't have an agent, no.
Is there a difference?
There is, yeah. Managers have more of a hands-on kind of feel. The agents are kind of like, in the background. They do their stuff.
They do their stuff. Well,
they do their stuff.
Well, you can watch this video and learn a lot from it. So I'm going to bring our guests back real quick. Now, typically when we do the show, we have a segment, guys, that is scientifically and chemically proven to be the most popular feature of the show. And we will usually show something cool that, we call this. Check this out. Hold on. I got to pull the logo.
Show the graphic.
Yeah, I got to show the graphic. I know, Robin, you're going to be amazed. I made this myself in PowerPoint. Our head of design dies a little bit inside every time. There you go. I just killed a kitten. All right. So I can actually see her backstage getting irritated as I
cringing.
Cringing. But tonight, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first, Mike?
I'll go first.
You go do it first. And Sean, if you haven't checked this out, great. You could show it. If not, you could just go along for the ride. And same thing with you, Robin. Go ahead, Mike. You go first.
Mine isn't specifically for comics, but it's a Save the Cat.
That book. Yes.
So, and it just breaks down, the 3-act structure of any story, which can be used for comics or movies or TV or anything. So I think if you're looking to do some writing, this is a great one to check out. And this one has great examples of actual movies in here, and they break it all down for you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And tonight I have to check this out. This is 51 Unseated. This is by a member of the Comic Book School community who posts on our message boards, and a graphic designer. He wrote and drew and published his own comic book called 51 Seated. It's sort of an X-Files horror-ish genre. I couldn't actually read it, Mike. It was published in a different country.
You don't read other countries?
Well, it was published in Canada, and I
you don't read Canadian?
I can't read Canadian at all. So yeah. But actually, I did read it. It was very clever, and I add this as our check this out because we have a very talented community who are doing things that are very interesting. And I thank Vince. He sent a copy of it signed to be worth a whole bunch of dough for me down the road. So that is my check this out this week. Robin, do you have a check this out?
I have part 2 of last week, which means no, I don't have it.
Okay, good. And Sean, I didn't prepare you in the least for this. Do you happen to have a check this out?
Well, I don't, but I would second the Save the Cat book. I read it, and it is extremely useful.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at how you can break down every single successful movie, pretty much page by page, and the same thing tends to fall on the same page, and that really blew my mind. So it's just an easy way into to writing. Just to get a template there, and that does like a lot of the heavy lifting for you. You just got to fill in the template, and then you're off to the races. So yeah, I would second that.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much. And Sean, the question we ask every guest is as follows: what's one piece of advice that you wish you had received early in your career?
I think I answered this before during our live thing. I would say, I put all my eggs in the drawing basket, meaning I kind of push the drawing ability as far as possibly it can go, and never really cared about like being a social guy or being well groomed or anything. I just realized how so much of it is beyond just your ability to draw. You really do have to be like on time and professional, and actually try to be drinking buddies with CB Cebulski. All that stuff I never really thought mattered, but it really does matter. So just in order to capitalize on your potential, is you got to fire on all cylinders. So don't just get really, really good at drawing or try to get really good at drawing. You can actually not have to work so hard at drawing if you get the other stuff in order. And you can, do a lot of learning on the job, but you can get those jobs just by just being a nice guy and a friendly guy, and then being very sociable. So.
Well, that sounds great. And Sean, you are a nice guy. And I thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to put you back in the green room real quick. And I will, how do I do this? I'll learn the button. This is the worst button night. Robin, we'll see
How
you
many
again
buttons do you
next
have?
week.
He has 2 and he still can't figure them out.
It's not a good night. I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. Robin, we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'll be
Should
here.
we color coordinate our shirts again?
Happenstance is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
All right, Robin.
We were all going to go red of sorts.
We're gonna put you in the red room there, Mike. That was perhaps the most chaotic show we've run so far.
That's about standard, though. It's nothing out of the ordinary for us.
Well, we do advertise the least prepared show on the internet, and I think we delivered the least prepared. But it was fun, right?
It was a good time.
It was fun, and it was honest.
And it was educational.
It was educational. So next week, Mike, we will be having a really interesting group. Brian Polito of Chaos Comics will be coming back to meet with Neil Clyde. And I don't know his last name. His name is Rance. He is the editor, Rance Hosley, who's the editor at Z2 Comics. They're going to be coming on, Mike, to talk about the Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance graphic novel adaptation.
That sounds interesting.
It is. And I love that album. I'm super excited that they're going to be talking about it. It is an official licensed product from Judas Priest. So we're going to find out how they made that, some of the background history of that. And had Brian Polito, I said, isn't that like one of your favorite bands of all time? And he goes, yeah. So Brian's going to join us.
Should I listen to the album to prepare myself?
If you haven't listened to the album, you actually should.
I don't know if I've ever listened to any of Judas Priest.
You really should. Redheaded Ed just blew the fact that there are no cookies in the green room.
But there is spaghetti.
There is spaghetti. Yeah. And she called me out because I couldn't read a foreign language. So.
Canadian?
It's a foreign country. So, all right, Mike, I'm going to punch you back into the green room. You'll wait there for me?
Yep, I will be there.
All right, I'll see you there. Thanks everybody for joining me tonight. It was really great to see you there in the audience, and thank you for the comments and for being patient. Look, it's a real show. It's actually live. It's a little bit like when we get together at conventions. Things go wrong, things go right. But we hope, all of us hope that the show that you're seeing is something that you would like to click like on, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about it. But in the meantime, I just want you to know that with the holidays coming up, there's going to be a lot of activity. But, stay focused on delivering your work. Don't take a work holiday, just take a holiday. You'll see us here next week and every Tuesday. My name is Buddy Scalera, and thanks for joining us here on Comic Book School.